What is going on, guys? My name is Jay, and today I'm going to be showing you, what is this, 7? 6? I think it's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's probably right. 6 puzzle fails. So this was kind of crazy. The one at the end, and then it's going to sound like clickbait, but the one at the end is like actually nuts. Because I had my friend who spent like a year doing like 5 hours of puzzles a day, got to over 2,400 on chess.com puzzles, and he couldn't do it. Um, so yeah, a really crazy puzzle with a really crazy rating attached to it. Anyway, this is probably, no, oh, yep, that was the first loss. Oh, you just take the pawn with the knight. Easy fork, oh well. So that's the first little fail, first hard one. And you can see I actually give you 2 for the price of 1 today, which is kind of fun. I know you guys don't always. I feel like, yeah, in the last video, I think I gave you 2 of these little short ones because it's, when I lose this early on, it's like, all right, well, I may as well keep the video. And then yeah, I guess I probably should have switched those 2 around. But yeah, there was something with the knight. Oh, were you supposed to take the pawn maybe? No, wait. Oh no, there was just a fork on the king and queen. Anyway, here's the first real puzzle for you guys. And you can see we've already lost. So the idea with this one, you notice we're about to sacrifice an exchange because obviously we don't want to lose a queen. And I probably saw that in my head because I usually cut the footage. And in fact, I'm about to cut the footage here and show you guys this one a couple of moves down the road. A couple of moves down the line. But yeah, this one is tricky because it's rated like 1100, and you're down in exchange and you've got some pawns, but like that doesn't really sound that good. And like you'll see when I cut forward, the position does get better if you play it out, but like you'd have to see like 5 or 6 moves in advance to really realize like, oh yeah, that's good. And you'll see here, we're about to have a trick where we win the exchange back, and Stockfish thinks we're completely winning here. But there's no way that an 1100 would be able to see this far into the future. If you look on the side there, 3, 4, it's like 4 or 5 moves at least that I played. Very forcing moves, mind you, but still, this one seems like a pretty underrated puzzle. I think a lot of people probably just guessed on this one, and I probably could have guessed better, obviously, but what are you gonna do, right? So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this one. His king was exposed, and so that's why you're able to sacrifice an exchange early on. This next one here, so I'm really focused on the knight. This one was pretty tricky too, actually, if I remember. So looking at it, a move that really stands out, obviously, is knight f6, right? It's a check on the king, protected by the pawn, so you get your pawn in there. Pawn is going to be defended by the rook. Actually, it looks like I at least half saw the idea here. Right? Rook f3 does need to be played a little later on. But notice my rating, I'm only 815, and the puzzle itself is only rated about 1200, so this one I feel like was also pretty underrated. And you'll see here, so the idea is to threaten checkmate, but he can stop that, at least temporarily. So you have to see like 3 or 4 moves ahead of like just continuously going for checkmate, and eventually he ends up sacrificing a piece, in this case the knight. You can see I cut a little bit. But yeah, you had to see this idea to bring the rook to g3, and of course the pawn is basically pinned. The h-pawn isn't actually pinned, but if he captures back, once you captured his knight in that position, your queen would be able to get to h6 and then subsequently g7, delivering mate, and that's unstoppable. But I mean, guys, this is like, again, 3 or 4 or 5 moves down the line. It's only rated like 1200. I just don't think anyone, I don't know. I don't think most of the people actually saw that. I think they probably guessed, or maybe they had some intuition about it, but there's no way they calculated even like half of this. Because even like h5, I mean, you see h5, you're like, oh, the attack's done. But yeah, I don't know. Pretty tough puzzle. Definitely underrated, like I said. And then here, I'm just kind of playing some nonsense. Of course, the g-pawn actually is pawned here. It's actually pinned here. So you can just take that and go for the mate, which I kind of show there. So anyway, next puzzle here. This is the second to last one. Oh, damn it, Discord. This one is 1963, and we're on harder here. Now, I think this puzzle was only rated like 1500 or something, which is probably half the reason I included it. But yeah, looking at this one, we have two basic ideas. You know, if you take the knight, he can take back with his knight, so then he's protecting h2. The bishop is completely free here. But I think probably I was just like, oh, it's got to be mate. Okay. I mean, there you're just up a bishop. I mean, I saw that you could move the knight. Well, and then you just take the knight. Oh, so maybe it's not taking the bishop? Actually, these are kind of fun to go back and look. Okay. Yeah, you have to take the other bishop because it's free. And then if he ever moves the knight, your knight has time. Yeah, I saw the discovered the attack. Oh, and then when you take back, you're protecting the knight. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, this was just a run I got very far on harder. Obviously, I finished my harder run now, so this is kind of an old clip, but yeah. This last one, you can see my rating is lower than usual, you know, for the last video, or the last clip. You can see the rating is 1970. It's been played 6 times, so I guess this is the 7th time. And I find the move here. So g5 works not because of rook e2, because like any human here, you know, in the last position playing rook e2 is kind of dumb, I'll admit. But any human here would play rook e2, which I showed you there, the computer did not like. You actually need to move the pawn, and then you want to eventually play rook e1 so that the king can't take it. But this idea of sacrificing your rook to promote to a queen is actually really, really common in endgames. So that's why I was so sure that rook e2 instead of rook e1 had to be played. Also, notice the rating, it's 1970. I think I already said that. Played 6 times. But now let's look at it a little bit later. Oh, different board design. Also, here I'm showing rook e2. And you can see we have a queen versus a rook, and it's a draw. It's just a draw. And I play out a couple of moves. And it's rated 2500 now. It's been played 60 times. I wouldn't be surprised if the rating of this puzzle goes up even more. I could see it being 2700 just because there's a lot of different ways you can get tricked in this puzzle. So the first, obviously, is ever trying to play rook e2. Another one is trying to play rook e1 before pushing the pawn, and the reason that doesn't work is because when he moves this king, it attacks your rook. And then also his rook has time to get behind your pawn in that case, while if he... Yeah, I don't know. This was a hard puzzle. And of course I was on, I think, hardest difficulty. It's disappeared now. So it's not super unreasonable to get like a 1900 puzzle at 1300, but this was a 2500 rated puzzle. And the issue is that because I played so many puzzles at this point, I get a lot of underrated puzzles, you know, ones that have been played 10, 20, 30 times. And the issue is that if it's only been played a handful of times, even like 100 times, there's a good chance that it hasn't risen to its like actual rating. There haven't been enough, you know, basically bad people to play it and boost its rating, because the only people that get puzzles that have been played like 10 times are people who play a lot of puzzles. And if you play a lot of puzzles, you're probably pretty good at puzzles. So anyway, here you can see you have to get to this endgame where it's a rook versus 3 pawns, which is pretty tricky, by the way. You know, typically we have a pawn too, but a rook versus 2 pawns is typically winning for the person with the pawns, believe it or not. And so that would be another reason, like even if you saw 5 or 6 moves in the future and you were like, oh, okay, I trade off my queen for his rook, which is what happened. You promote to a queen and then you trade it off for his rook. That doesn't even necessarily look winning to a good player if you were able to see that far. So anyway, very tricky puzzle, an actual hard one to end the video off on. I think I had some good ones in this video, but please remember to like, favorite, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. See ya!